Rodney,
Hey, how you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm happy today.
You're happy to, what, were you not happy yesterday?
No, I'm happy all the time. Matter of fact, that's been my standard response for as long as I can remember. How are you?
Uh,
Happy.
Happy. Yeah, you are always a happy guy.
Well, I believe you can have what you say. I also believe you get what you say. So I'm
Yeah.
careful about what I say.
Language does have meaning, doesn't it?
Yes, it certainly does.
Yeah, people pay attention, especially leaders like ourselves when we're running a crew. People really pay attention to what we say. So we have to
Exactly.
be very careful that we're not throwing away our words, I guess.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Well, Rodney, you know the construction industry, and I'm happy to have you here on the Profit Tool Belt Show. On this show, we talk to all sorts of construction and contracting professionals, an industry you know really well. Why don't I just hand it over to you? Who the heck are you, Rodney, and how do you know so much about construction?
Well, like so many of us, it goes back to the way we were raised. If our dad was in construction, then guess what? We were in construction.
Yeah.
I had a guy pouring concrete for me one time, and he said his dad told him, if you don't do something now, you'll be behind a concrete truck your whole life. And he says, I guess I still am. So we're kind of like that too. My dad was an electrician. I grew up having to learn the trade, detesting it, and
Oh,
then later on, very, very thankful that I had been taught a skilled labor trade, so I was able to make more money than the people around me and take care of my family. That was very important. But I think most of your listeners, a lot of us got into this line of work because of our family.
yeah. I would have to say the same thing. I mean, if people that listen to my show know that I'm not a contractor. I mean, I used to be a contractor. I was a painting contractor, and I had a Christmas light installation company. So I've definitely had my contracting companies, but I don't now. But I grew up around that kitchen table. My dad was a welder, a journeyman fabricator,
Isn't that something?
one of those old Italian guys, those crusty guys who you could never put an assistant with because he fired all his assistants. And then the manager would come and say, Joe, you're not actually allowed to fire people.
How about that?
And he just swear at them in Italian.
Well, that's
That's my kitchen table story. But I agree. And you know what? I really like dealing with contractors because they're so straightforward.
yeah, we have to be. We have to communicate. We have to be communicated to, for sure.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we make mistakes, don't we?
got to be clear. Well, you wrote a pretty good book, I understand.
Well, I like it.
I like it too. Yeah. Why won't they pay me what I'm worth? Heck of a title.
It is. That was the cry. That was the absolute cry of my heart. I mean, you know how it is when you acquire skill over time?
Yeah.
And then when you offer to do something for somebody and put a price on it, everything is fine until you put a price on it. And then they act like you are not worth it. And doesn't that just tear you up?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because you're trying to give them the best advice you can.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And do the right thing, not take shortcuts. Not, you want it safe for them because it's safe for everybody.
I mean, you want to say, you called me.
Yeah.
If you were so smart, why didn't you just fix it? But you called me.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
So
fact,
that's what,
I had a plant. I had several manufacturing plants that would use me if they would have a power outage. And this was 5,000 volt switch gear. Not just anybody was even willing to work on it. So I'd go out there at night. I'd get their plant back up and running, and I would usually just charge them 4 hours. I thought, that's reasonable. Then one day, plant manager came by while I was solving his problem, and he said, if you don't get this going, if you screw up, we're going to charge you $100,000 an hour because that's what it costs us to be down. The next time they called, my price went from 4 billable hours to a show-up charge of $5,000. You want me? I'll come start your plant. It starts at $5,000.
nice.
Take it or leave it.
I love it. Have you, that you're living the proof of the story that I heard many, many years ago when I was in telecom. In my youth, when I had more and darker hair, I was in telecommunications, and there's a story that floated around about a guy who had retired after having run the computer that ran the whole phone system.
Uh-huh.
And he retired, And then lo and behold, after he retires, the phone system goes down. And so nobody can fix it except the old guy. So they call him in and say, whatever it takes, come and fix it, whatever it takes. So he comes in there and he walks around his old server room, the servers where all the computers are that are running the phone system, takes a piece of chalk out of his pocket and puts an X on one of the circuit boards. And he says, if you replace that, this whole thing will be running again. Oh, thank you so much. Send us your invoice, whatever it is, we'll pay it. Thank you. So they replace that circuit board. Everything turns on. Life is good again. So he sends him an invoice, $1 million. This is the story, right? This is the story. It's $1 million invoice. And so he gets a phone call back very quickly. What the heck is this? Break this down for us so we understand this ludicrous invoice. And so his invoice goes back to them. It says one piece of chalk, $1. Knowing where to put the X, $999,999. Right?
And that's classic.
That's a classic. And I'm glad to see that you actually lived that story. That's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what got you to that frustration point where you thought you needed to write this book about people not paying you what you're worth? I mean, that story itself is classic because they played their hand right into you. If this shop isn't running.
Well, what brought me to that was this, just like so many people, so many contractors, we get into business because we've attained and acquired skills. Let's face it, most of us think we were smarter than the boss when we quit our last job. I actually didn't, but I've had a lot of people quit working for me that thought they were smarter than me. But the point is, the ultimate judge is the customer. So when we're in front of the customer, they're all excited. They're all about getting whatever it is fixed. They're so glad we're there until they see the price. And the problem is they have nothing to compare it to. So if we put the focus on a part, for example, as an electrician, I might say to a homeowner, oh my gosh, you were right. It's this outlet behind the microwave. Yes, it is hot because it's burning up. Fortunately, it hasn't started a fire. I can take care of it right now for $78. I remember that price in my head back in about 1995, telling a customer, I thought that was a pretty good high price at that time too, because I was charging like $35 an hour.
Yeah.
And the customer immediately, it's like they reared up, backed up, and of course, you know what they said. $78? Are you crazy? Well, I'll just get Joe from the plant to come out here. He'll do it for a 6-pack of beer. Well, that was what, 20, 30 years ago? Yeah. Hey, ain't nobody coming out of the plant today in this environment for a 6-pack. Today, they'll do it for 3 cans. But here, what's the secret to what happened there? Remember, everything was fine. They were happy I showed up. They even thought I hung the moon, right? Oh my gosh, you look so smart. You look like a great, and your tools, oh man, you know what you're doing, right? You have the test equipment. Everything was great until I put the focus on the part. A $2 outlet, back then a 38-cent outlet probably, or $1.50 if you buy the good one. And when I put the focus there, the only thing they had to match up the value of the money with was that part. Right. You see, they had no way to value me or anything else. And it was incongruent. It was out of balance. And so psychologically, they were forced to respond, forced to think that that's way too much money and that their mind finds a solution. I'll get somebody from the plant to come out here. And how did I feel? I feel like 2 cents, right? I feel like, how can I explain to you?
I'm trying to save your house from burning down.
Right. Yeah. And what did I do? I spilt my candy. I told you what the problem was. And now, you can go find a cheap solution because I told you what the problem was. So it was years of working through those issues long before I ever wrote the book, because when I wrote the book was when I figured out what I was doing wrong. Now, I had certainly looked for solutions. I joined best practice groups. As a matter of fact, I spent probably $56,000 with one group, $78,000 with another, $14,000 with one consultant, $15,000 with another, $18,000 with another. When I added it all up, I had spent over $350,000 on industry expertise. Why? I was trying to solve this problem. Why won't they pay me what I'm worth?
Yeah.
I was taught sales skills. I was taught negotiating skills. I was taught how to educate the customer. Think about it. You're a customer, your water heater's not working, your furnace isn't working, or you've got sheetrock falling down, and you call a repairman, and are you calling somebody because you want to get educated? No,
No, you
see?
want the job you want the job done.
You want it done. Everything we do, we went about from the wrong way. And so when I discovered that we were operating like wholesalers and not retailers, even though we all thought we were in a retail business, I realized we were 100% wholesale.
Oh.
The difference, very simply, very short, very succinct, is that the wholesale works on volume and professional salespeople. Your wholesaler, they send a guy around to your shop every couple of weeks or every month. If you're electrical shop, they come around every month or so with their specials and their line items, and sometimes with donuts and handshakes. They want to keep you buying. So that's the professional salesman that's keeping that relationship, because it's a continuous relationship. And then the wholesale works on volume, see? And so what are they doing? Hey, by the way, if you take, my dad used to buy water heat. Gee, if you let me put in 2 outlets, or if you let me put a dimmer switch, I can save you money. Why? Volume. The more volume while we're here, the price comes down. So we act like wholesalers. It doesn't work because they didn't call a wholesaler. They called to get one thing fixed. It doesn't work. So what do? Do we respond by just giving them what they want? No. We teach technicians how to sell. Or what I did, I hired car salesmen from car dealerships.
Really?
Yes. And at one time, I put a car salesman with my technician in the truck. Okay. And the first week they went out, they sold $20,000. And I was, oh my gosh, I've solved the problem.
Yeah.
It never worked again because they would fight. The salesman wouldn't work. The salesman wanted to just sit in the truck and smoke cigarettes while the other guy worked. Yeah. Anyway, we tried everything.
The point is, you tried. You went and tested it. You sort of stuck your neck out there
many times
to try and find a way to do this. And I guess that testing is what led you to finding systems that worked, by banging your head against the wall for things that didn't. But that's a lot of bravery, by the way, hiring a salesperson to go on a technical call where, 4 hours of work, the sales guy's just going to be sitting there for 3.5 hours.
Well, and most of us contractors did something similar. For example, back in the day, there was a lot of copy machine repairmen. Oh, they had a nice job. They could carry their tools in a suitcase.
Right.
I always wanted a job where I could carry my tools in a briefcase. I mean, and after I got into business, I bought one of those fancy briefcases full of tools.
Silver ones, yeah.
I'd carry it around. Yeah. I felt so important. But so we hired copy machine salesmen. We hired anybody that came around into our office that seemed like good salespeople. Then we tried to train them on the mechanical part. Now, most of the time it didn't work. Okay. But when it did, because most in-home service work is dirty, it's drudgery, and if you have homeowners or business people telling you that you're not worth it and that you're charging too much,
well, you're certainly not motivated to get under their sink and fix their plumbing, or go down in their basement and go to the dusty panel box and start fixing it after they've just beat you up on price.
Right. That's right. Oh, right? That's a good point. And so there's the mental stress, right? Anyway, so we went through a lot of things. You learn a lot of things the hard way. And I realized one day, by the way, I said sometimes it worked. But when you have a guy who can sell and upsell on the job, and then can turn around, take the tools, and do quality installation work, that's high level. You think about it, that's a very intelligent person. They're using their right brain and their left brain. This is high on the intelligence scale. Now, here's the problem. That person is not a serviceman. Now, it doesn't mean that they're better or smarter, but a serviceman comes and they get their rush, their enjoyment, their core value
Yeah.
to serve you, to help you, to be your friend.
Yeah.
They love the homeowner patting them on the back and saying, wow, nobody else could have fixed that.
Yeah. You solved the problem.
What they cannot stand is for somebody to say, well, that's too much money. Or you said you were here an hour, but you were only here 50 minutes. They can't stand when somebody questions their integrity, because see, that's the guy that they came there and gave you everything to help you. So the guy that's right brain, left brain, that very intelligent person, if he's not a true service person, what is he? He's what's called an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur is always on a career path. They're not only smart, they're looking ahead. They're always looking ahead and looking at how to multiply the return on investment for the value they bring to the table.
Mm.
So here's how it works in a technical job like plumbing, heating and air, and electrical.
Yeah.
First, the guy's a technician. Then you train him in sales, and he takes to it like a duck on water and becomes a great selling technician. Okay, then, so that's number 2. Number 3, he becomes a prima donna. He wants to cherry pick the jobs. He starts telling the dispatcher what jobs he won't go on, what jobs he wants. He gets out and sells a job, and he wants somebody else to come and do the dirty work. So he becomes a prima donna. And every time I've seen a prima donna, they go to the next stage, which is called free agent. Now they're out there, and your competitors, whoever offers them a better deal, a sweeter deal, greener grass, them, not only are they gone, but remember, these were the sweet talkers that actually built a nice relationship with your customers. Nothing hurts a business more than to lose a decent employee, even if they hate them when they leave, because that employee believes that your customers are his customers, and he will take a bunch of them.
Yeah. That is true, isn't it? I mean, because they're actually their customers. They solved the problem. They met them at the doorstep.
Yeah.
Mrs. Jones gave them a cup of coffee and a cookie.
The kicker is they're not going to be happy working for your competitor because they're too high on the prima donna scale, see? So where do they go? They're either going to leave the industry and get into probably sales that is more comfortable. Like, why would you want to crawl through attics if you can sell? Why wouldn't you sell BMWs, ride around in air conditioning and soft leather? So that's where they're going, or they realize that you were holding back, and now they just become your competitor. We all have that. I've got at least 4 or 5 in my service area that used to work for me.
And now have their own company?
Now they have and I don't actually begrudge any of them because, I learned through that time period.
Yeah. Hey. I was the same. I used to think, I've quit jobs before thinking my boss is an idiot and I'm going to go start my own company. And then I realized, hey, now I'm the idiot. Right?
That is so true.
Yeah. And it happens out there. It's painful to see it, though, especially when those people start to take business or market share that we believe is ours. And it hurts because, if you're running a business, you're obviously passionate about what you're doing. If you're running a multi-generation business, you've probably got family looking over your shoulder who's watching what you're doing. That's an extra layer of pressure nobody thought about. And it's tough. So what's the solution here? What's the actual to-do?
The good news is that rolling around in the back of my mind, ever since I was a teenager, was Ford Motor Company. I loved Ford Motor Company because they would come out with these ads that say, have you driven a Ford lately? Well, if I hadn't, I ran right down there and drove one. I considered myself a professional test driver.
Really?
I have test driven at car dealers with salesmen over 300 times.
Oh, you're somebody. Hey, somewhere else there's a training call about guys like you and how to get you out of the car.
Well, the good news is I've bought over 50 cars.
Oh, okay. It's not a bad conversion rate.
If you go back and look at your cars, service trucks, you've made a lot of purchases.
Yeah.
So I was a good prospect, okay? And I have 9 kids. Every time a kid turns 16 or 17, hey, Dad, can we go drive a Mustang? Can we go drive a Corvette?
Right.
We drove everything.
Well, you probably bought a lot of vans too with 9 kids.
Yes, I did. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we did. We had the 15 passenger, the 12 passenger, the 8 passenger, the 7 passenger.
Oh,
And I
man.
still have a 8 passenger Yukon, and my wife has an 8 passenger minivan because now we have 10 grandchildren.
I love it. That's a sign of a great life. Good. So I'm sorry, I cut you off on your story.
No, but let's make it simple. Let's just get right to the point here. And here's a good example. A couple of days ago, a HVAC, a heating and air owner of a company, asked me a question about closing rates of service calls. Okay. Now, the time and material contractor that bills by the hour will usually close and get paid for over 95% of his jobs. He'll actually close, actually do the work in the high 90s. Somebody calls him out to their house, he's going to be 97, 98% where he actually quote, quote, sells the job. In other words, he gets the job because they know what he charges before he comes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. He may have 5% of the people don't pay him. Maybe another 5% gripe a little bit because he's sending them a bill at the end. And so there's a surprise. Okay. Then comes the advent of flat rate pricing, which came out pretty strong in the 80s, but by the late 90s was really well accepted. And what did we say? Oh, we're doing flat rate pricing, just like the automotive companies. I used to believe that. Now I can tell you there's no comparison between a flat rate heating and air, electrical or plumbing company. No comparison between the way they do it and the way Ford does it. And I'll explain that to you in a second. The closing rate for flat rate companies sits around 75%. Okay? What does that mean? Now, first of all, some of you that are listening, you say, oh, well, I close higher than that. Some of you are closing only 50%. Wow. Wow. Okay. Now, why is that? It's because there's a lot of reasons for it. It's because your prices look too high and you're still doing what I did with the electrical outlet. They love you until you point to the part, put the focus on the part, and then give them a price. And it just doesn't work. They're mad. 25% of the people basically send you away. Now, problem with that, when you lose a job as a flat rate or as a service contractor, when the customer sends you away from their home or business because they think your price is too high, what's the chance they'll ever call you again?
Oh, they're not going to. The only way they'll call you again is if nobody else shows up to do the work.
If they're desperate.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? Every marketing dollar you spend is immediately devalued by that closing rate. If your closing rate is 25 or 75%, your marketing dollar is only worth 75% of what you're spending. If you're closing 50%, it's 2 to 1 against you when you go to market. Now, here's what I told this heating and air contractor. When he asked me, what should my closing rate on service work be? I said, go down to your Ford dealer, go into the service department, and just watch. Sometimes they even have free donuts. Eat a donut, have a cup of coffee, and just watch. They'll think you belong there. Watch how many people come in, get their cars put up on the rack, have the service writer call them and say, okay, we can replace that starter or whatever it is. How many times does the service writer go out there and say, hey, George, drop that rack. They don't want to do the work. Push that car out. They're coming to get it. I said, how many times does that happen? He says, well, I haven't been there, but he says, I've been in to have my car fixed many times and my trucks. He said, I'm thinking it's really close to zero.
Yeah.
I said, that's right. So I said, what's their closing rate? He said, it's got to be close to 100%. I said, yes. The people that don't do it, number one, maybe they just can't afford it. Okay. Number two, maybe their dad, this is not too uncommon, their dad says, hey, listen, just bring it home and I'll fix it for you. Okay, fine. They've got a relative. Most people, though, get that work done.
Yeah.
That is a retail business. I studied Ford Motor Company for 40 years. I actually bought stock in Ford Motor Company in the 90s because I wanted to know more about them. I wanted to get closer. And I also last year or the year before last, I attended a huge auto dealers conference in Las Vegas.
Oh, really? How did you get into that if you're not a
My
dealer?
brother owns a car dealership.
Ah, a
So
Ford car dealership?
I became his vice president of marketing.
Smart.
So I went in with the badge, you know. But after 40 years of studying Ford and spouting out numbers, like, for example, the overhead in a Ford dealership, any well-run Ford dealership will pay over 90% of the overhead through the service department.
Oh, service is the best part of any contracting business. And by the way, for people listening to this right now who don't have service contracts in their business model, you really need to find a way to add it, because what we learn from businesses such as you really know HVAC well. HVAC has service contracts. Pest control has service contracts. But companies or industries that don't typically have service contracts can still put them in place, right?
True, but there's two things you have to know about a service contract.
Go ahead.
Number one, don't give away the farm.
Yeah.
Never provide anything in a discounted maintenance contract that the customer would be willing to pay for if it broke. Okay, period. You don't give away the farm.
Yep.
Number two, don't expect your maintenance contract to be a loyalty contract. They are not loyal to you just because they have a contract with you. They think they're getting a deal from you.
Well, and you have to present it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And the deal, by the way, could be peace of mind that you're going to come back and you're going to check the X or Y or Z on there. Take something very simple like a gutter installation company. Very simple, very basic, right? Well, you could sell a service contract that says once a year we're going to come back, we're going to check your gutters, we're going to clean the downspouts, and that's just this much per year. Picking up $100 a year. Yeah. You might think, Dom, it's not even worth it for $100 a year. But I'll tell you what, as soon as you show up on that job site and you park your truck and the neighbor comes across and sees you, you've just gotten free marketing. You've got $100 a year contract. And after a couple of years, when you have 50 of those, that's a lot of money. And I, in the future, will buy your company for a premium if you have a bunch of service contracts. Right. If you're just a gutter guy, what am I going to buy from you? Your old truck, your old bender and press.
Who knows? Who knows who put the gutters on their house?
Yeah.
Who even remembers? So one thing the gutter guys could do is they could put little metal tags on the downspouts. Because if I have a problem, I go over there and look. Wouldn't it be nice to see their phone number?
Yeah. Hey, what an easy sale to make. Yeah. Call John. Right. John's Gutters. Yeah. A simple example, but I 100% hear where you're coming from on that.
Well, the point is that loyalty comes from relationships. So, for example, I would never sell a service agreement to somebody who cannot be as loyal to me as I can be to them. Because if they call me at night and they say, hey, I've got no air conditioning or my power is out, what am I going to do? I'm actually going to take care of them. I'm going to go and help them, right? Well, is there anything they can do for me? Well, I live in Georgia. So the thing with air conditioning is it gets hot. So I learned not to sell maintenance agreements or any kind of a loyalty contract to people that didn't have at least 2 air conditioning systems in their home.
Oh.
Because now when they call at 7 at night, oh my gosh, the air conditioner's out, I can say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Is it upstairs or downstairs? They say, oh, well, it's downstairs. I say, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Listen, we'd love to come right out, but if we can't get out there tonight, will somebody be home tomorrow? Okay, now what did I just do? Instead of me making the decision and saying, oh, we guarantee we'll come out right now. Instead of me doing that, let me just ask them. Let me put the ball in their pocket and see how they play. Over 9 times out of 10, they will say something just like this. Oh, well, you don't have to come out tonight. You know what? We'll just sleep upstairs and we'll be fine. Yeah, if you can come tomorrow, hey, that'll be great. What time can you come? Right. And then we go on from there. Most contractors think it's all about jumping, and they give loyalty that's never returned. So I learned how to make a 2-way contract out of it, because if you don't have loyalty, here's what happens. I've got a beautiful brick home on a nice road that bought a service contract from me for two years ago. And we've been out there, once or twice a year. This morning, as I drive by, what do I see?
Another van out front.
And you did not, and I didn't even have to tell you that. You, another contractor, you just told me. You see that? You just told me that you know darn well that they're not loyal. So what trumps a service agreement? What trumps that loyalty agreement? The flash marketing ad. The billboard that says $2 a month for the rest of your life and you get a new carrier system.
Yeah.
Or the coupon in the mail that says, hey, we're doing a special, free furnace with air conditioning.
Yeah.
In other words, I didn't really have the relationship with them I thought, did I? So
how do you fix that?
Contracts, there's a place for maintenance contracts, but there's a place to build loyalty.
So what do I do? Yeah, what do I do, Rodney? How do I fix that?
Number one, you quit going where people can't be loyal to you. And the way you do that, you just put a big map up on the wall. Younger people could do it in a computer, but I'm visual. Big map up on the wall of your service area.
Yeah.
For me, it's 2 counties, right? 2 counties side by side. And then I put a blue pin every time we do a service call or a job where the people loved us, they could afford us, and they were willing to tell family and friends. I put a blue pin. Every time we had a customer not pay us or give us the runaround or treat us like dirt or give us a bad review, we put a red pin. Over the course of the first summer I did this, which was 2001, when I first did this, by the end of the summer, I had about 3 clusters of blue and about 3 clusters of red. So then what did I do? Number one, I said, okay, phone rings. The only thing we want to know is location, just like a realtor.
Yeah.
The most important thing is location. If it's in the red area, we're not going.
Yeah. Sorry, we're full up.
We're not going.
Yeah.
And now, if we've been shooting baskets in the shop for 3 days because we have no work, and if they'll give us a credit card ahead, we might go. Okay. But that person is almost always going to get this. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're having that problem. Listen, we'd love to come out, but it may be a week or 2. Could I recommend a contractor closer to you? And then who do I recommend?
Your next competitor.
That's right. That's right. Aren't you are? The guy that I don't want in my blue areas.
Yeah. Rodney, you've just hit on something. We call it, or I call it a heat map, right? A heat map tells me where my hotspots are. And you did it with the blue and the red pins. It's brilliant. I like doing it visually the way you do too. You can do it through Google Maps. You can drop all these pins. But what that tells me is those are the areas that I want to go to. It's easy to drive to. For those of you listening who live in a city where there are toll booths, where there are bridges, where there are tunnels, where there is bad traffic, you don't want to be serving the areas outside of your heat map because it just costs too much to get there. We don't get paid for windshield time. Right? We can do enough business in the great areas where the right clients are who want to pay what we charge, who want the kind of work that we do. And if we focus on that, just like you said there, life becomes so much easier.
And along that line, you should be, especially the people that live in in any kind of a larger area, a metro area. My city is 50,000. My market area, the 2 counties I mentioned, is 100,000. So that's plenty. But most people that live that work in or around a city, all they need is all their work. They should over time try to concentrate their work to within 5 miles of their shop.
Yeah.
10 at the most. Now, I've had people say to me, oh, yeah, but, we've got to go 25 or 30 miles to get to the kind of neighborhoods we want to work in. Then move your shop. Well, why? You might be in an area that over time has become the bad part of town.
Yeah, true.
One contractor I know has a very big, mean junkyard dog in his fenced-in yard every night. Move! You don't have to stay.
Yeah,
Now,
those are all important considerations. And by the way, I'm just going to take this as a boomerang. I'm going to take that as to a piece of advice we can give people is that if you don't currently own your real estate, you need to find a way to do that. Because the ongoing value for your company, I mean, maybe moving means you stop renting and you move to something
yes,
you buy. Please do that, because over the long term, you're just building the legacy. Every day that you pay rent is an expensive day, but every day you pay down a mortgage is
mhm.
a day you're moving ahead. So just, I'll leave that out there at face value. Anybody has questions on that, call me, probably call Rodney too. I imagine you have the
Well, no,
same type of approach, you know?
you're giving great advice. A lot of people, especially if they're young, when you buy your first home or piece of property, try to buy something that has room where later on you can build a large garage or shop.
Yeah.
A lot of guys are only going to be 1 or 2 or 3 trucks or something. So
Yeah.
start there, but I agree. Try to own something.
Rodney, this has been fantastic. I got a feeling you and I could talk for a couple hours. Unfortunately, that's not the format of today's show. How can people find out more about you? How can we find your book?
Well, here's what we didn't do, and I'll do it in just a few seconds. We didn't tell them the secret. Remember when I said going from wholesale to retail?
Yeah,
I'll tell you exactly what it is. When you walk into Walmart for a coffee maker, there is nobody there even trying to sell you coffee filters, okay? If Zig Ziglar worked there, you'd buy the whole store, but he doesn't. So what do they have? They have a $9 coffee maker, and the top one is going to be around 200, maybe 179. What do? You look up, down, right, left, and you buy the one you want. The average coffee maker goes out of Walmart at $39. Okay? The $9 one is only if you're going camping or something like that. Or maybe you just got married. That's all you can afford. The point is, what they do is they give you choices, but here's the secret. Most every contractor out there thinks they're doing choices. No, the choices have to be coffee pots. So if they need an outlet, can you get them a better outlet? Can you provide a better circuit? Can you do something that's better electrically for that room? Okay? Stay within the pain point of what they called you for and enhance it. Secret to McDonald's was a 99-cent hamburger. Now you think about the billions that they've served, and let me just tell you here really quick. They make about 7 cents on a 99-cent hamburger. Now, well, so let's just say 7 cents net, okay? Contractors love to think in net. What happens if you add a 5-cent piece of cheese to it and change the name to cheeseburger? You just picked up another 95 cents net profit. Oh my gosh. That's how you become a billionaire. Now, you have to think about that. Most people think that they will not get it. They will not get it. You enhance and change the name. Enhance and change the name. And that's what I talk about in my book. So if somebody wants more information, they can certainly email me at rodney@menupricing.com, or they can send a text if they would like a, by the way, I have a billable hour calculator that I created that will help you to set your prices, because we work with contractors in all 50 states, plus Canada and Australia. And so here is a tool so you can determine what your price should be. And they can just send this text, and the text is just simply BHC, which is for billable hour calculator. And if they'll send that text to this number, 706-259-8892, just send the text to 706-259-8892, and we'll send you and tell you how to log into that at no charge. And we'll be happy to do that for you.
Yeah. I was on the billable hour calculator today.
Okay.
I liked, first of all, I like the font size because I'm an old man now, 51. But you know what? It was really simple and straightforward. And yeah, I think you've hit on something that a lot of people need to understand or struggle with is how much do I really bill? You know, what goes into billing? Because what my competitor is billing is not my billing rate. It's what my company needs to do.
Right.
I'm not competing with the guy next door. Actually, the most important person I'm competing with in most businesses is myself.
That's right. That's right.
It's just
I don't care what my competitor charges. It shouldn't. If my prices, if I'm giving options and my bottom option is reasonable, then I don't have to worry about my competitors.
Yeah. Yeah. Competitors come into play a lot with commercial guys that are doing bids, tenders, RFIs, RFQs, RFPs. They're worried a lot about winning the job at a bid. But even
Yeah.
there, they need to understand the ways to add value and understand what their burned in costs are for doing any piece of work.
I'll just tell you just in a second how you add value to commercial, especially to commercial jobs.
Yeah.
Like when you, if for the people that are listening that are working with general contractor, and it's just like this, Mr. Contractor, here's our price. I'm sending you our quote. It's for $78,000 for the electrical. But let me just tell you what's most important. What is most important for my company is to make you, the general contractor, make you look good. We want to support you. We want to make sure that when you turn this job over to the architect or to the owner, that is excellent. Our goal is simply to make you look good. Please tell me how we can do that so we can work together.
Yeah.
So I just enhanced something that everybody was giving him. Now, wouldn't he want to come back and talk to me? A lot of them do, because I've done that for years.
Yeah. It works. You know what? They're buying just like everybody else is buying. We have to stand out.
That's
right.
Well,
Rodney, I think we're going to have you back on the show one day.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it.
I would love to have you on. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the Profit Tool Belt. I look forward to everybody out there taking advantage of Rodney's great billable hour calculator. I really liked it. So
we didn't even mention my company, which is the new flat rate.
Didn't we mention the new flat rate?
No, that's what we do now. We provide pricing to contractors in all 50 states in Canada and Australia. And what does it do is it doubles and triples your average ticket with no sales resistance. So get in touch with us and let's talk.
Yeah, fantastic, Rodney. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And thanks everybody for checking in. Have a great day.